Hughie Erskine had everything: charm, looks, and a generous heart, but not a penny to his name. He loved Laura Merton, but her father demanded Hughie earn £10,000 before he'd allow them to marry, a sum as unreachable as the moon. Hughie tried and failed at every scheme, his romantic spirit always at odds with the cold demands of the world, leaving him a dreamer trapped by poverty. Burdened by his own financial woes and a heart heavy with the uncertainty of love, Hughie Erskine sought a moment of respite. He decided to visit his friend, Alan Trevor, hoping for a distraction from the pressures that weighed upon him. Alan's studio was a sanctuary of organized chaos, a space where creativity thrived amidst a delightful mess of paints, canvases, and brushes scattered about. Sunlight streamed generously through the large studio windows, bathing the room in a warm, inviting glow, illuminating every corner and highlighting the vibrant colors that adorned the walls. Alan, a painter of considerable talent and growing reputation, was deeply engrossed in his latest work, a portrait of a beggar, a subject that seemed an unusual choice for the successful artist. The model was an old man, his figure draped in tattered rags that spoke of a life lived in hardship and destitution. His face, etched with the lines of time and hardship, held the very image of misery, a stark reminder of the suffering that existed in the world. Though Hughie was aware that the man was merely a model, hired to pose for Alan's artistic vision, the sight of such apparent suffering stirred a profound sense of pity within him, a feeling so strong it resonated deep in his soul. In comparison to the beggar's evident plight, Hughie's own troubles, which had seemed so significant moments before, suddenly appeared trivial and insignificant. In that moment, Hughie's empathy for the beggar, for the weight of his apparent hardship, eclipsed his own worries, offering a new perspective on his own situation. When Alan stepped out, Hughie found himself alone with the weary model, whose exhaustion was all too real. Moved by compassion, Hughie impulsively gave the man his last sovereign, his only money left for the month. The beggar accepted it with a quiet, heartfelt, "Thank you." Hughie's act was reckless, but it felt right. Alan returned, unaware of the small drama that had just played out. As the session ended, Hughie confessed to Alan that he'd given the beggar a sovereign. Alan burst out laughing, revealing the beggar was actually Baron Hausberg, one of the richest men in Europe and Alan's patron. Hughie was stunned. He'd given his last coin to a millionaire in disguise. The irony was crushing, and Hughie left the studio mortified by his own naivete. His grand gesture now seemed a foolish mistake. Alan, with a knowing glint in his eye, began to unravel the curious tale of Baron Hausberg. He explained that the Baron, a man of immense wealth and eccentric habits, harbored a peculiar fondness for the streets. Not out of necessity, of course, but for amusement and perspective. He enjoyed posing as a beggar, immersing himself in the lives of the less fortunate and, rather remarkably, paying handsomely for the privilege of this unusual role-playing. It was a strange hobby, a way for him to experience life from a different angle, a world away from his gilded cage. Hughie, upon hearing this revelation, felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. The realization that he had been, in essence, a player in the Baron's game, stung deeply. He imagined the Baron, back in his opulent mansion, laughing heartily at his expense, recounting the encounter with the naive young man who so readily parted with his meager funds. His act of charity, once a source of pride, was now a source of profound embarrassment, a constant reminder of his perceived foolishness. He felt exposed, vulnerable, and utterly taken advantage of. Alan, sensing Hughie's distress, tried to reassure him, attempting to salvage the situation with words of comfort and encouragement. He optimistically framed it as the investment of a lifetime, suggesting that Hughie's kindness might somehow be rewarded in the future, a seed planted that would eventually blossom into something unexpected. But Hughie, consumed by shame and self-doubt, felt only regret, a heavy weight pressing down on his spirit. He trudged home, his steps heavy with disappointment, the vibrant city around him now seeming dull and lifeless. He was utterly convinced that his simple act of kindness had irrevocably made him the butt of a wealthy man's elaborate and cruel joke, a story he would forever be ashamed to tell. The story, in its current form, seemed destined to haunt him, a dark cloud hanging over his otherwise optimistic outlook. Yet, as is so often the case, fate, with its unpredictable twists and turns, had other plans in store for Huey Erskine. The next morning dawned with an air of anticipation, though Huey remained unaware of the life-altering event that awaited him. As the city began to stir, a messenger from the esteemed Baron Hausberg was already making his way through the streets. He arrived promptly at Huey's doorstep, bearing a crisp, sealed envelope, its weight hinting at the significance of its contents. The messenger, with a polite nod, handed over the missive, marking the beginning of a remarkable turn of events. Expecting ridicule, Huey's mind raced with possibilities, none of them particularly comforting. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was some sort of elaborate jest, a cruel reminder of his earlier encounter with the Baron. With a mix of trepidation and curiosity, Huey carefully opened the envelope, his fingers trembling slightly as he broke the seal. Inside, nestled amongst the fine paper, he found a check. It was a bank check, made out in his name, for the staggering sum of £10,000, a sum that seemed almost unreal, a figure that represented not just money, but freedom, opportunity, and the fulfillment of his dearest wish. This was the exact sum Laura's father demanded as a condition for their marriage. The realization struck Huey like a bolt of lightning, leaving him speechless and utterly bewildered. Could this be real? Was this some kind of dream? Accompanying the check was a neatly folded note penned in elegant script. Huey unfolded it with trembling hands, eager to decipher the meaning behind this extraordinary gift. The note read, "A wedding present to Huey Erskine and Laura Merton from an old beggar." The words danced before his eyes, their simple message carrying a weight of profound generosity and unexpected kindness. The Baron, disguised as a beggar, had seen past Huey's outward appearance and recognized the genuine sincerity of his compassionate gesture. He had witnessed the young man's empathy and understood the purity of his heart. And in return, he had rewarded it beyond measure, transforming Huey's life in a single, selfless act. The gift was more than just money. It was a validation of Huey's character, a testament to the power of kindness. Huey's kindness, once a source of shame and embarrassment in his own eyes, something he feared would be seen as foolish or naive, unexpectedly became his salvation, the very thing that lifted him from despair and paved the way for his happiness. With the financial obstacle removed, the wedding was joyfully arranged, plans falling into place with a speed and ease that seemed almost miraculous. The ceremony was a grand affair, with distinguished guests from far and wide. Among them, the Baron, now revealed in his true identity, sat with honor, and Alan, ever the loyal friend, stood proudly as best man. In the end, Huey learned a valuable lesson, a truth that would stay with him for the rest of his days. That true wealth lies not in gold or possessions, but in the boundless generosity of the heart, in the simple act of giving without expecting anything in return.